So I was given an amazing opportunity to buy a rent roll, as daunting as it seems. But at the end of the day, I just had to remind myself that it was just a name change. They were still the same owners. They were still the same tenants, still the same tradies that I'd used for, forever. It was just me on my own now. So nearly 10 years in March in 2024, I'll have owned my own business, which is it's such a rewarding thing, because when you start your business, you have no idea how it's going to work. You take a big risk, a big step. And for me and my family, it's worked really, really well. It's given me the freedom to watch my children grow up, be able to go to their sporting events. When one's doing exams and needs to be picked up at 10:30, I've been able to stop what I'm doing. And you're accountable for yourself. So there are the late nights when you'll be on doing emails and going through your phone and, making sure you're right to start the next day. But you get the reward when you own your own business. And at Debonair Property Management, it is just myself. I have an amazing VA, but I find it really rewarding, and the connections that you make with the renters and the renter providers over the journey, like the relationships over 10 years. And when it comes to a lot of owners at the moment, due to regular changes and interest rates are selling, it's really sad. Like, you're losing something and a connection that, you've had for 10 years, because you hear about their family and everything that goes on. So I've been really lucky and was given an amazing opportunity to be able to buy a rent roll.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Property Management Podcast. I'm so happy that you've got me in your ears. Now, at the time of this recording, I have just got back from a 4-week sabbatical traveling to Hong Kong and the UK. I know, I'm super lucky. I had the best time, and honestly, I didn't touch work at all. And for anyone that knows me, you would know how difficult that was for me. I had a great break and lots of downtime, and I was actually traveling with my daughter, which was so good for us because we actually lived together and worked together. So it was really nice stepping out of our normal roles and just hanging out, traveling and having a bit of an adventure. My heart was also filled to the brim. I got to reconnect with lots of old and lifelong friends that I hadn't seen since before COVID. But I am going to admit that by week 4, I was pretty much ready to get back into work. I did a couple of online courses and just to sort of fill my thirst for learning and growth. Tell me you can relate to this. Anyway, I want to just preface this podcast by apologising. My interview skills aren't the best. It's my first podcast back, like I said, in about 6 weeks. So I am a bit rusty. But I'm super excited to share with you my guest today. She is an absolute superstar, and she has been part of that property mum world since pretty much the start. I actually think I can remember seeing her on my very first webinar when I was scared shitless. I had a squeaky voice and I was jumping all over the place. And her face looking back at me through the camera was just filled with so much hope and kindness that it eased my nerves and made me feel so much better. She is currently one of our amazing Done For You social media clients as well. But that's not the only reason she's a superstar. I want to introduce you to Skye Bartlett. She is the founder and owner of Debonair Property Management in Geelong. She comes from a long line of real estate business owners. In fact, she's the 3rd generation in her family to have a property business. But Skye didn't want to ride on anyone's coattails. She left the family business and went out to make a name for herself as a property manager in other companies. And she achieved that goal, becoming one of the most highly sought after PMs in the region. But when an opportunity to buy a rent roll and go out on her own eventually presented itself, she let go of the fear and decided it was time to start her own business. In 2024, it'll be 10 years since she opened the doors to Debonair Property Management, and all the while raising her 2 beautiful humans as a single mum. She's done it tough, she's worked hard, but what I truly admire about Skye is that she picks herself up, dusts herself off, keeps learning, keeps growing, and keeps getting better and better. And she shares some great tips in this episode on how businesses can help support their property managers too. So grab a cuppa, and sit down and take a listen to her story. Skye, thank you so much for joining me on the Property Management Podcast. Now, before we dive in and talk all about you, can you start off by letting our audience know a little bit about yourself and how you got started in property management?
Thank you so much for having me, Kylie. It's been a long time we've been getting this together, so quite excited. So I started as a receptionist when I was 12. My grandfather had a business, a real estate agency in Geelong, Victoria. I had 9 offices around Geelong down to Apollo Bay, Torquay, along the Ballerine. So quite a big agency. And I was 12 when he was looking for a receptionist for the weekend. So happily dived in 9 o'clock till 12, making $5 an hour. So, the big money back then. And then I watched what he did. I was really lucky. I got to stay with my grandparents once a week overnight, and I'd watch him on the phone. The phone was diverted back to his place, and he'd answer the rentals. He had no idea about the rentals. He was running a big business, but he would still ring. And I remember him saying, "The girls will call you in the morning. I'll grab your number." And then, I had so much family involved in real estate. I had uncles and aunties, and my mum was also involved when I was a lot older. And I remember school holidays as a 16-year-old going to work with my mum, who was a property manager in a lower class area in Geelong. And my eyes were open to the people that were out there and needing rental properties. And I even remember at one stage, my mum sent me to VCAT. I think I was only 16, maybe 17, which nobody knew, but it was a pretty good, easy VCAT hearing. We were just asking for an adjournment back then. So my eyes were opened up to the industry quite early. So I just fell into it, to be honest.
That is an amazing story. So I think you said you've got 3 generations that have been
Correct.
in real estate, which is amazing. So it's probably safe to say that you've actually got real estate running through your veins. So what, I guess, were some of the changes that you've seen then through, seeing all these different family members? Do you think property management has got easier, it's got harder, or the challenges? What's sort of some of the observations, I guess, that you've made over all of this time in the industry? If you are anything like me, you think you know your rent roll numbers. Well, I thought I did until I had a rent roll health check, and I was quite literally shocked. The money I was leaving on the table was astounding, and this is not something that I'm proud to admit. There were missed management fees, let fees, advertising, and lease renewal fees not being charged, and properties even without bonds. And all of this was happening despite monthly audits being conducted in my business. So how did I uncover all these gaps in my valuable income? Well, I had a rent roll due diligence from my good friend Tazi, aka the Rent Roll Queen and founder of the Tazi Way, a specialist in rent roll due diligence, business valuation and management rights. The Tazi Way is the innovative force driving the real estate industry. With 25 years of business and real estate acumen, they find gaps and risks in your agency to find undiscovered value. If you'd like to book your business in for a rent roll due diligence, head to the link in the show notes and mention That Property Mum for a 10% discount.
Yeah, so look, I remember back in the day, everything was done in the paper, and you'd cut out the clips and put it in the paper, and the paper needed it by a certain date, and you'd be really frustrated because it would be Monday and the deadline would be, Tuesday, 12 o'clock. But then, Thursday you'd rented these properties and open times, and, the development of the film, you take it up to the photo place to get the photos taken. So then they're on the board, and, you'd have to get boards. Still do get boards put out on properties now, and you'd have people ringing you up and they'll be asking you about a property. And then you'd say, well, have you driven past it? And they'd be like, no. And you're like, look, really want you to drive past it before I go out there, just to make sure, because you can tell a lot about a property from the outside of it, so that we're not time wasting. So to see the journey, properties being in the paper and the old photos to now, we just go with our phones, take photos. It's up within hours, and if the property is leased, and ways to communicate to renters. If that's in Victoria, we call them renters, not tenants. But to be able to let them know that a property has been leased and no time consumed, so we're not time consumed and time poor. So the technology has come such a long way from where it was. But saying that, people now expect us as property managers to be always available. And I think that's a really hard thing as a property manager, to pull yourself away and go, well, it's 6 o'clock now. Time to be part of my family. I mean, I remember even yesterday I had a text message from a renter. I think it was about 9 o'clock. Can I call you? No, no. We can. Is it urgent? Is the house burning down? Urgent maintenance? No, you can wait till 9 o'clock in the morning. So it is really, really hard that technology has done such amazing things in pushing property management and real estate forward, but at the same time, it's being able to pull yourself back.
That is absolutely true. And my phone's always on call over the Christmas period, and the amount of calls that I get that are obviously not emergency maintenance, and I'm like, you're trying to be polite, but also in the back of my mind going, oh my God, are you serious? You're calling me about this right now? But that is the challenges of property management. And I think one of the important things is to have those boundaries around when you won't take calls, and how you're going to respond to them. So that's a lesson in itself. But talk to me a little bit more about, like, you obviously are a single mum, you're running a business. How did you end up in the business that you are in now? And I'm sure lots of our listeners will want to know, how the hell do you juggle it all?
Well, I ask myself every night before I go to bed, what did we do today? How did we even get there? So just rewind a bit. I turned 40 at the start of this year. And in my mind, this was when real estate was meant to start. This was when my second career was meant to start, not my first that has continued. I have two beautiful children, Eliza May and Oscar. And Eliza May would have been about the age of 4 and said to me, Mum, I never see you at kinder pickup. Now, saying that, I had my mum, her grandma picking her up, and I thought that was a good substitute, but it turns out that wasn't. So the only way for it to work was to work out how I could, work on my own. And I was really lucky. I did leave the industry for 12 months back in 2000 and I think it was 2012, just left the industry altogether. I was burnt out. The industry, the agency I was working for burnt me out, and I lost all my passion. So I never actually thought that that could ever happen. I then found another agency who loved me and really appreciated me and could see what an amazing property manager can be. And I also discovered while I was away from the industry for 12 months, just what I was worth and the knowledge that you have. When I became a property manager, it was literally an 8-week course that you did. And then, you're a property manager and you're meant to know everything, all the acts, all the experience. So, I think at the moment, and I know I'm leading on a different path, but property managers are so burnt out with how much the industry is changing. And as a property manager leaves, they're taking all the knowledge that they know and all the years of work. So it's really important that property managers are well looked after. But I was given an opportunity. The rent roll that I was working on was up for sale. And I didn't know this when I went to work for the industry. I found out 6 months into it after all the work I'd done, chased up all the bonds, got the arrears down from 40,000 down to 5,000, etc., that it was on the market to be sold, and it had been sold. And I was asked if I'd go along with it because obviously so they could have the retention, hopefully, or the owners would stay. That fell apart. It didn't happen. And I was given an amazing opportunity to buy this. And, a rent roll that you've worked with and know the ins and outs never, ever, ever, ever happens. I saw when I worked for my grandfather, the rent rolls that they bought and the disasters that came along with, it looks good on paper, but when you start diving into things, it's not as great. So I was given an amazing opportunity to buy a rent roll, as daunting as it seems. But at the end of the day, I just had to remind myself that it was just a name change. They were still the same owners. They were still the same tenants, still the same tradies that I'd used for, forever. It was just me on my own now. So nearly 10 years in March in 2024, I'll have owned my own business, which is it's such a rewarding thing, because when you start your business, you have no idea how it's going to work. You take a big risk, a big step. And for me and my family, it's worked really, really well. It's given me the freedom to watch my children grow up, be able to go to their sporting events. When one's doing exams and needs to be picked up at 10:30, I've been able to stop what I'm doing. And you're accountable for yourself. So there are the late nights when you'll be on doing emails and going through your phone and, making sure you're right to start the next day. But you get the reward when you own your own business. And at Debonair Property Management, it is just myself. I have an amazing VA But I find it really rewarding, and the connections that you make with the renters and the renter providers over the journey, like the relationships over 10 years. And when it comes to a lot of owners at the moment, due to regular changes and interest rates are selling it, it's really sad. Like you're losing something and a connection that, you've had for 10 years because you hear about their family and everything that goes on. So I've been really lucky and was given an amazing opportunity to be able to buy a rent roll.
That is fantastic. I guess with the owning your own business, you can make your own hours. That in itself is worth its weight in gold as a mum working. And I imagine you've got some great family support around you as well to be able to sort of juggle it as a single mum as well. If you're ready to be a super organised, focused and productive property manager, buckle up because Colmio is about to revolutionise the way that you work. Colmio is the driving force behind property management excellence in residential real estate. Now picture this, a comprehensive end-to-end system designed to be the beating heart of your property management tasks, manage your properties, owners and tenants, and handle payments, inspections, and even marketing listings without leaving the platform. Colmio is designed to be an all-in-one solution to all your property management needs. And here's the game changer. Colmio isn't just software. It's been awarded the most innovative PropTech Scale Up in 2023. Yes, you heard it right. Colmio has been recognised for their groundbreaking approach to property management software. How good is that? So property managers, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, dive into the future of property management with Colmio. You can book in a demo with the team today and go in their weekly draw for a Prezi gift card worth $100. All you need to do is to head to the link colmio.com/thatpropertymum, and Colmio is KOLMEO.
Yeah, absolutely. My mum and dad are quite close by and they are always stepping in to help where they can. But I'm a pretty independent person, as a lot of my friends and family and people I work with know. So I do try and do a lot by myself. But, it's been a great experience, I believe, for my kids. They've been able to see what I saw, I guess, with my grandfather and in real estate, like how much people work and how much you've got to do. Like when they were younger, they would come and do opens with me. And, I've got photos of my son helping me do a condition report back in the day when you used pen and paper, or one of them vacuuming. And it's really, it's quite a great conversation. When we were doing the opens together, like my son would be saying, "Hey, Mum, have you rented that property yet?" Or, "Oh, have you, we're going to that property. Wasn't that one up for rent not that long ago?" So they can see how hard I work. And I suppose those are the values that I want to put into my children, for when they go and do whatever it is they do out in the real world.
My kids grew up as well, traipsing around to open homes and sitting in the office on iPads, and two of them are now working in the business, so which is amazing. So, and part of what why I've worked so hard is to hopefully, like yourself, obviously set those examples and values, but also create a bit of a legacy for the family moving forward. So yeah, so that's a really nice addition to all the hard work. Now, I have been lucky enough to support you in your business journey, and in a few different ways, and from obviously workshops and courses and bits of coaching, and also now through social media. So I want to maybe just dive into a little bit, and this is not a promo for my business, but I just want to talk about your social media journey, because I know how shy and introverted, I guess, and reluctant you were kind of when we first started working on your socials to put yourself out there. And yeah, so to talk to us a little bit about that journey and how you're finding it now.
Yeah, so it's always hard to put yourself out there, but I think when you sit back, it's like, well, you're putting yourself out there every day. When you put a lease board up, that's your brand, that's who you are. So it's just, I suppose it was taking that step. I mean, the most confronting part is when you're then asking for, the family photos or the I suppose personal photos, and it's been interesting watching those go up, and I've been able to reflect and go, yeah, that's what I've done. Look at that. It's beautiful to see what people comment on about it. And I suppose those photos show what I do outside of real estate, that I'm not just a property manager 24/7, that I do have a family, that I do go and do other things. And I suppose I hope that the stories that between you and I that we put up there about myself, it gives other people the idea that they can also do things, that work is not just work. It's beautiful to read testimonials, and I think we get them and then we take them in and they make us feel amazing for 5-10 minutes, and then we just flick them to the side or put them on Google or wherever they go. So to pull those out once a week and then reread them, it's like, oh yeah, I am doing a good job. Like, it reminds you. I think social media is a great thing that you can scroll back through and have a look at things you've done and what you've done well. So yeah, it's hard, but it's hard putting yourself out there. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, people look at, personal pages. I'm not one who, I put my children up and say how amazing my children are. And maybe I'm starting to get a bit confident and starting to say, look at my achievements. But, we always put our children, because we're always proud of our children. We don't put ourselves out there. And that's what social media is about. People want to know about your business, but they also want to know what you do. Like, you're a human being after all, and I think that's a big thing in property management. People forget we are human. People forget that, we're a mum or a wife or all these different things. And at the end of the day, we do have a family to go home to. And, we take the burden with us. When a tenant is behind their rent and you're trying to help them find ways to pay rent, and then you've got the owner saying they need the money, like, you take it home with you. Like, you sit there all the time thinking about it. You never, as myself as a property manager, and I'm sure there are lots of other property managers out there, you never turn off. You're always thinking about what's happening next. How can I help this? What can I do to improve this?
Absolutely.
So social media is a great place to then be able to reflect all those things.
Absolutely. Now, tell me, in terms of your business, have you found any benefits since you've been posting consistently, as we always preach about showing up on social media? What sort of differences has it made in that respect? And personally, I think you are very inspiring, and I love your story. It's so certainly unique, and it's not a story that I've ever spoken with anyone else that I've come across, that 3 generations, that real estate running through their veins. So, I take my hat off to you. I think your story is so inspiring.
It's actually really funny you should say the 3 generations. I only bumped into someone the other day, and they actually mentioned the 3 generations. And it's funny, every now and again I don't forget it. I always know I'm very proud of it. But you sort of sometimes forget about it. And I suppose coming back to the social branding, for me, it's branding. I want to be Skye Bartlett of Debonair Property Management, because forever and ever, everyone's like, oh, you're Sid Thompson's granddaughter. And that is so true. But, I'm also myself. And I also have the opportunity to be as successful as he was. So it's the branding from the social media. I get so many people who say, I love your branding, and it really reflects on you. So Kylie, that's amazing. Thank you so much for being able to pull that together, because that can be a really hard thing. Like, I can see it and visualize it, but for someone to pull it all together, and it's so structured and it's so, it's unique. And I don't see anyone else in the Geelong region doing my type of branding. There's obviously agents who are out there doing the social media all the time like we are, but it's for people to come and say, I love your branding and I see you popping up all the time. It's, it's like, you are out there checking it. You are seeing it. It's not all the time, and I understand that, but it's nice to see that people are seeing it and can then associate it with myself and who I am.
Fantastic. And I just want to go back and retrack a little bit. Something that keeps popping up for me was when you said about property managers being looked after. And I think that's really special and a great point to probably dive into a little bit. From when you were back working for somebody else and, and say in the future you brought on your own property managers, what are some of the ways that you feel like businesses could be looking after their property managers better at the moment and the way the world is at the moment? There's been so much talk of stress, overwhelm, and burnout in property management lately. Do you want to know how I overcame all of that? Yes, I hit rock bottom multiple times, but I got myself a virtual assistant. Actually, not just 1, but 3. But I didn't just get any VA, I got a PM VA. What are they? Well, they are the most well-trained in the business. And not only that, you also have a backup VA. So that essentially your business is never without admin support ever again. and my health, time, and business has never looked back. Your PMVA can take care of tasks like rent arrears, lease preparation and renewals, maintenance follow-up, routine inspection bookings, data entry, audits, prospecting, inbox management, and so much more. And the best part of implementing a PMVA in my business was that it freed up my time and my team's time to take care of important things like customer service. What makes me feel so safe is that PMVA is owned by Tiffany Botel, both here and in the Philippines, making my data secure and giving me more control over the VA arrangement. So head to the link in the show notes to book in your discovery call with Lady Boss Tiff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did leave my grandfather's business, nothing to do with the family business. I just wanted to go out on my own. I think I felt like people thought as being connected to the family, you were being silver spooned, that was easy being a property manager. And I suppose I needed to go out on my own feet and prove to myself that I wasn't. And I know I wasn't. But where I worked, it was a sales agent that owned the business. And I believe that sometimes sales agents who are not property managers don't know exactly how hard their property managers are working. And they don't understand the education and the relationships that we're building and continue to build. Like, as I said, I've had relationships with these owners for nearly 10 years. And I think sometimes from a sales agent's point of view, they get the listing, they sell the house, and that's it. 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, maybe that's the relationship that they have. And then they move on to their next client. And ours is ongoing. And ours is such an emotional thing for a lot of our landlord/rental providers. Like when you ask them, why do you have a property? It's for my super, it's for down the track, it's to support my children. There's that emotional connection that they constantly have with their property. And then that falls back on us, and it can be the smallest things. Owners saying, well, what's happening with the maintenance? Why is this happening? And I just think property managers, a lot of people think that we open the door at 9 o'clock and we close the door at 5 and that's it. But a property manager's job is not a 9 to 5. I think anyone in the industry who thinks a property manager's 9 to 5 actually needs a reality check, because I don't believe you can do it 9 to 5. That'd be nice, but it just doesn't happen. And I suppose that's why I took the opportunity, or the opportunity arose for me to go and own my own business. I grabbed it because I know I've always given more than 9 to 5, working after hours. But I think it's looking at your property managers and asking them what they need and what can the people in your office do to help them. Whether that's, giving them half a day off a week, or looking at the procedures in the office. Do you have time where property managers are not taking phone calls and not having emails? And are they getting the proper breaks? And are they going out and going for walks during the day? And, are they stepping away from the office? I think they are just some of the small important things, because it's really easy to come into the office, and I know I do it quite often, and sit down at 9 o'clock or 8:30 whenever I drop the children off and start answering phones, emails. And before you know it, it's 12 o'clock. I haven't left my desk. I haven't gone for a walk. I haven't even, gone and had something to eat. Then the next minute, it's school pickup. And, you haven't gone and done the things. And sometimes just fresh air from a conversation with a rental provider or renter that may have, you've had to bat for both sides and explain, yes, you're right, but this needs to be done in the process. The fresh air can help. So I think it's just looking at how property managers can be helped. I mean, there's some amazing conferences going on at the moment. And I think it's really important that, property managers get to those conferences, and even, the business owners, the directors, etc., because they can learn so much. And I think the most important thing is your rent roll at the end of the day is, if sales are not happening, mortgages go too high, your rent roll is always, it's your bread and butter. Always gonna, it's always gonna be there. It's gonna pay your receptionist. It's gonna pay rents, mortgages, whatever it is in your office. I just think, owners need to take more of a consideration of property managers and just how much they do in the office and what they give to the office as well, and give them a break.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I've just got back from holidays, and my poor property manager was holding the fort on her own while I was away. So I've sort of come back and realized that she definitely needs a holiday too now. So yeah, I'm just working through that. And the challenge we've got at the moment here in Queensland is there's no property managers around. It's really, really difficult to find a property manager. And I'm not sure what recruitment strategy to go to try next. So,
but I think that's the thing. I actually think it's Australia-wide. Property managers are burnt. We all went through COVID. That was tough. And then I know you've got some regulation changes, but we literally were going through those during COVID. In 2021, they all started. And it's been really hard on property managers, and you've got rent providers and landlords telling us one thing. And it's like, I know, I hear you, but this is what we have to do. But I haven't had to do it. I've had my property for 20 years and I've never had to do it. And now you want me to spend $10,000, and where am I meant to find this money? And it's the stress, and you start to take on that stress as well, because, you feel it. And look, I'm also a renter provider, so I feel that stress as well. Like, I really do understand what they're going through, and that just makes it hard. But like you said, recruiting wise, I don't know where you go, and I don't know what you do. That's why when you have got a property manager, you have to love them and nurture them and care for them, and, giving them the old massage gift voucher, and you know what, pulling them aside and saying, you are amazing at what you do, and making sure you've got their back. If a property manager knows that an owner has got their back, they will do anything for you. And I know that from experience. When I didn't have the support, it was really hard. And then when I moved and got the support, I was just blown away. They had my back regardless. And that can make a difference between a good property manager and one that will walk out the door.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice there all round. Now, moving on, do you have some personal development that you can share with us? A tool, a resource, a book, podcast that you listen to?
Oh, well, I always listen to yours, Kylie. I started when I first did one of your courses, I jumped on and started to listen to your podcast. And, it's really lovely to hear other people that in the industry, Hayley Mitchell and Darren Hunter and Sophie. And so it's really nice to hear their stories. And it's a great way to reflect and learn. And I do go to the conferences in Queensland, and look, I'm a big advocate for Hayley Mitchell. She has amazing conferences, and it's just amazing to reconnect with property managers. I think that's another thing that us property managers need to do. We need to stop thinking, you're here to take my properties. We should be able to communicate with each other. And look, in Geelong, there's so many property managers. We should be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, how are you going? I've had this issue. Have you had this issue? I think property managers, I don't know what it's like in Queensland, but in Geelong in particular, we are really separate. And I've never really understood why. I think we should all be a team, and we should be able to rely on each other and help each other, because, as I keep mentioning, it's a tough industry, and we have some, there's some daunting stories that have been out there. But if we were able to share them and not go, oh my goodness, that makes you a bad property manager because that happened, instead support you and go, wow, that almost happened to me, or you know what, that did happen to me. How did you get through it? So yeah, the podcast, and just keep going to conferences, because, as I said, you're always learning something, even if you just take one takeaway. You spoke recently in Queensland, and I know you quite well, but look, I learned lots. And it's constantly, if you're not going to conferences or listening to podcasts about your industry, you're just sitting there, and I suppose in a way you're becoming stale and not growing. And by you growing, then your business gets to grow. But you're constantly learning different tactics and strategies with being able to talk to renters and renter providers. Like I said earlier on, after an 8-week course, you're a property manager, but it's life experience. It's talking to people. And I think, as I said, I've got 20 years of experience. If you can talk to someone else who's got another 20 years, before you know it, there's 100 years experience in one room, and we can all help and solve each other's problems.
I think that is absolutely phenomenal advice. You're absolutely right. Growth is so important. I was just sharing with you before we jumped on recording that the last week of my 4-week holiday, I was starting to feel like I needed to get back into work. So I jumped in and did a couple of online courses in marketing and social media, because I just felt like I needed that growth, that learning. And of course, it was an opportunity. I didn't have to be doing my day-to-day work. So, and conferences, absolutely phenomenal. And not only that, you're saying how you're separated from the property managers in Geelong, and I feel a bit like that in Queensland as well. But I guess those conferences you get to bring together and meet other property managers as well. And it's like mothers groups as well when, you've got a newborn baby and you feel like you're the only one going through all the crying, the teething, the sleepless night. Then you talk to other mums and, or you're feeling like you want to strangle your baby because you have just that sleep deprivation and you feel so isolated and alone. But then you talk to other mums and you realize, hey, this is actually really normal what you're feeling. You're not becoming psychopathic or anything. It's just part of the process. And that's the same with property managers. I think the more we can talk about the struggles and issues, and sometimes I personally feel I'm speaking, trying to help people in the industry and I'm struggling with recruitment. And, sometimes you feel a bit ashamed of that. But the reality is, if I had a solution, I'd be sharing that too, but I don't have a solution to it. And if anyone listening has a solution for me for recruitment, please let me know, because I'm really worried. And I work with the training organisation as well. So I'm hoping maybe, working with them in the new year, we can bridge that gap between, getting people out of doing their courses, giving them that early property management education, and then connecting them with businesses. So, that could be the solution. I don't know.
But I think it could be something as simple as, I'm not renting anything at the moment, but I'm doing all these opens. Just a quick, bump into another property manager. Hey, how are you going? Have you got people turning up to your opens? Oh, you haven't? Oh, well, then it must be, it's not just me. Like it's all around. And then, that's great to be able to share that with your renter provider. But as I said, I think we just, for some reason, just keep to ourselves. And it's quite nice when you do find a property manager who wants to help, or you want to help them, and you can build that relationship so that you then know you can pick up that phone call and ask the most silliest question, and they're not going to judge you and go, oh, Skye from Debonair Property Management, she doesn't know what she's talking about. That's not going to happen because you've built that relationship. And, I know that they can call me and I'm not going to say anything either.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. Thank you so much for your conversation today. I loved catching up with you, loved connecting with you in person at the conference earlier this year. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, how can somebody connect with you, or if somebody does want to chat to you further as a Geelong property manager and wants to arrange a coffee catch up or something? What's the best?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's my website, debonairpropertymanagement.com.au, or call me on mobile, which I'm happy to give, which is 0414 708 177. And happy to talk to anyone who's thinking of maybe purchasing a rent roll, or, I suppose I'm a big advocate for single mums who just want to give it a go. And I know there's a few out there. So yeah, I'd love to chat and share my experience. This is just like, we've just skimmed across. There is so much more that I could share, but yeah, happy to help. I'm here to help any property managers. I want to be able to give and be able to help. That's, I think, as I keep saying, it's about educating everybody and continuing to do that in our industry.
Thank you so much, Skye. That's amazing.
Thanks for having me, Kylie.
One thing I dread doing is chasing up rent arrears and debt collection. It takes up valuable time and it can often lead to conflict. But it is a necessary evil when you are running a property management business. But there is an easier way to make sure your tenant's rent is paid on time and in advance, and it's called RentPay. RentPay is a secure and simple to use payment platform that saves agents time and money with fast, accurate receipting while making life better for renters. To top it all off, you'll never have to worry about dishonour fees or unknown deposits again. How good is that? Cleared funds are deposited straight into your bank account in a single daily payment with accurate receipting and reference numbers auto-assigned, and it's fully compatible with all trust accounting systems. It's a super flexible payment option for tenants who can pay rent in multiple ways, including direct debit, credit card, or instantly pay with Payer ID. Fees are minimal, and RentPay even helps with the rent arrears process by automating reminders to renters when payments are due or missed. If you are currently paying large bank fees, struggling with constant dishonours because the funds aren't cleared when their funds land in your trust, or wasting time chasing up unknown payments, I encourage you to book in a free demo with RentPay and give yourself and your renters an easier way to pay rent. Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.